Hey everyone, welcome to Eye to Eye. As the first black man ever to play in the National Hockey League, Willie O'Ree says he faced prejudice, bigotry, and ignorance. He spoke with Byron Pitts about breaking racial barriers out on the ice.
My late grandmother had a great saying. She would always say that God doesn't put heavy burdens on weak shoulders. But did you think, gee, I'm a black man trying to play this game, I've lost an eye. Lord, what else do you have for me?
I gave it some thought, and then, being blind and being black, and then I was faced with racism, prejudice, bigotry, and ignorance while I was playing. But I had already geared myself up for that. I knew I was going to be exposed to racial remarks and slurs from not only players on the opposition, but from fans. But I just said, names will never hurt you unless you let them. And I just let it went in one ear and out the other. It was rough, it was tough, and I remember, when Jackie Robinson broke in 1947, and Branch Rickey said, I wonder if somebody comes up and, calls you this, what are you going to do? He says, you got to turn the other cheek. Well, it was a little different for me. If I had to turn the other cheek, well, these players had said, well, he's not going to do anything. So I had to stand up and actually gain the respect of not only the players on the opposition, but the fans.
What are your first memories of playing in the NHL?
My first memories are being contacted by the Bruins, and I was playing in Quebec with the Quebec Aces, and they said, we want Willie to meet the Bruins in Montreal on January the 18th, 1958. So I meet them there, and I'm no stranger to the Montreal fans, because just a week prior to that I was Willie O'Ree with the Quebec Aces jersey on, skating around, playing in the Quebec League. Now I'm Willie O'Ree with a Bruins uniform on, number 22, skating around and being the first black player to play in the National Hockey League. And I could see fans pointing and saying, oh, there's that black kid here, he must be up with the Bruins now. It was quite a thrill, to play against the Canadians and especially beat them. We shut them out in 3-0.
Your lowest moment?
I think my lowest moment was, it happened in Chicago, 1961, my first trip into Chicago. We're playing against the Blackhawks. I'm skating around and I hear some, racial slurs, but it was going in one ear. Well, anyway, I got into an altercation with one of the players, a big right winger. His name was Eric Nestorenko, big, tall right winger. Well, anyway, the puck can have a shot on the net, and I go in and he comes on my blind side. I can't see him. I go in around the net, and as I turn, he takes a stick and he butt ends me in the mouth and splits my nose, knocked my two front teeth out, split my lip here, and my teeth fall down on the ice. And he made a couple of racial remarks at me, but it wasn't the racial remarks that set me off. He kind of stood there and was kind of smiling like, what are you going to do? Well, I hit him over the head with my stick, and then all hell broke loose. Both benches emptied. We were both thrown out of the game. I had to remain in the dressing room the entire game. This happened about 5-6 minutes into the first period. Coach Milt Schmidt said, Willie, says, I'm fearful for your for bodily injury on you. He says, you've got to stay in the dressing room. Well, once they stitched me up and plugged my nose and everything, at least I wanted to come back out and sit on the bench with the team. But he says no. So they had 2 police officers outside the dressing room, and I'm pacing back and forth in the room. So I turned the lights out in the dressing room, and I sat down in the dressing room in the dark, and I just said to myself, you don't need this, Willie. You could go back home. You could play in your hometown. If you're going to be exposed to this every game, it's just not worth it. So I sat there for about 6 minutes, and then I turned the lights back on, and I said, no. I says, if I'm going to leave the league, I'm going to leave it because I don't have the skills and the ability to play anymore. I'm not going to leave it because somebody is trying to, run me out of the league. And I says, if I have to fight, I'm going to fight. But I'm going to fight in regards to the game. I'm not going to fight because of racial remarks.
Kevin Weeks talks about how, in his mind, hockey can cross all barriers and be a real unifier. Why do you think that hasn't happened to this point, that there aren't more players of color in the game?
Again, too, it's unique sports. You've got to get on the ice. I mean, you can.
Okay, but they got ice in Chicago.
All right.
Got ice in
New
York.
But you got to make a decision. You got to set a goals for yourself. You have to set goals for yourself and what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. I set a goal for myself at 14. I said I want to become a professional hockey player and I want to play in the NHL. And I didn't stray away from that, regardless of what happened to me. I lost an eye and I had some other injuries, but that's what I stayed focused.
Do you think that for many kids of color, they still see hockey as a white man's game?
Oh yeah, Sure. You can see by the amount of players of color that are in the league. There's only there's 30 teams in the league, and if you look at each team, how many players of color are on each team? But it's going to increase. It's going to increase. I'm definitely, the programs that I'm working with are going to help develop players, and then they can make the decision what they want to do. They can choose hockey, or they can choose baseball or soccer or tennis or whatever. But the opportunities are there. You just have to say, hey, this is what I want to do, and work towards it.